Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt and welcome back to another Short War video, and today we have news I was not expecting to cover whatsoever today on a Tuesday morning. We are covering news of martial law being declared in South Korea, and the South Korean country has been delved into chaos as the sitting president brings in the military to the capital of Seoul and brings them in to surround the parliament building and also brings in Black Hawks and other military equipment to roam the streets to enforce the martial law enactment. So we are currently seeing that right now, and this is a very big political crisis for South Korea that we have not seen in many decades. So this is a hell of a situation that apparently and seemingly came out of nowhere. So let's go ahead and jump into our first piece of news here, which goes to Global Military Info. And we did hear a couple hours ago, the South Korean President Yoon has declared martial law across his country, and also martial law was allegedly enacted to eradicate the pro-North Korean forces and to protect the free constitutional order of South Korea. So this is the alleged reason that Yoon declared martial law, but of course, this may not be the real reason he did it, but this is what he's saying is the reason, and we also have footage here showing him making a statement declaring martial law a couple hours ago. So let's take a listen and hear what Yoon had to say right before he enacted martial law for the first time in many decades. So Yoon says, increase supply and allowances, increase in on-call work costs, etc., even the cost of improving the treatment of military executives, I put the brakes on. He said, this budget report, in a word, Republic of Korea, it is a joke on national finances. He goes on to say that even expected, used as a means of political strife, this Democratic Party's legislative dictatorship, and he called it a dictatorship, that is, he said, even budget impeachment, I didn't hit it hard. And he said, state affairs are paralyzed, and the size of the people, it's increasing. This is freedom, trampling on the constitutional order of the Republic of Korea, and he said, established by the Constitution and the law. Legitimate state institutions, by disturbing, capturing the country. So these were the statements made by Yoon right before he declared martial law, and these were allegedly the reasons that he's declaring martial law to oppose these anti-democratic forces that he claims are taking over the government. And I'll be honest with you all, I'm really not sure exactly what to say about this because I'm not really well versed in South Korean politics, and it sounds like many people are really confused as to what Yoon is referring to here. Even the people that are allegedly experts in South Korean politics, they're not really sure what's being referred to by these statements, but nonetheless, it is causing a bit of a row as the military is being called into Seoul after he did declare that martial law declaration. So moving on here to our next post, this one's going to go to Nexta, and we also heard from the South Korean opposition leader Lee Jae-myung. He said that Yoon Suk-yeol, who is the current sitting president, is no longer the president of South Korea. So now we have the opposition leader coming in and saying that that president who we just saw speaking a moment ago is no longer the president, and he's saying this from the back of a limo on the way to the parliament building. So let's take a listen to what this guy had to say as well and hear his grievances. So the opposition leader says that Yoon, the president, declared martial law, and that is true, he did earlier. He goes on to add here that there is no reason to declare martial law. He also adds here that let the military rule this country. There's no reason for that, he said. I can't leave it alone. And he's going to add on here, this violent control by the prosecution is also not enough. With a gun and sword, he said. Armed soldiers are taking over this country. I want to dominate. He also goes on to add, and, dear soldiers, only the people can give you orders. President Yoon betrayed the people, he said. And he says that President Yoon's illegal emergency declaration is invalid. So we're actually going to stop it right there because the opposition leader here goes on to add a few more things about his grievances with the sitting president of South Korea. But nonetheless, the important part is that the opposition is coming out, which has his own faction, and he's now going against the sitting president of South Korea. So we have two different opposition parties here fighting each other after the martial law declaration was announced by Yoon. So certainly very intriguing to see, and also very disturbing because it sounds like there is some infighting that could lead to an all-out war, and we might be jumping the gun a little bit on that, but that is a remote possibility. But moving on here to our next post, this one goes to Visegrad24. And then to make matters even more interesting, and then shortly after we heard Myung make that statement, and of course Myung is the opposition leader, we saw him live streaming himself jumping a fence to enter the parliament building and vote down the president's martial law declaration. So let's take a look. He actually live streamed, I can't tell if it's to YouTube or what, he live streamed him jumping the fence of the parliament building to get in. So let's take a look. So right here, there is Myung, the opposition leader. He's making his way down the side of the Parliament building, and he's about to jump a wall here, and there he goes. He's jumping over the fence, and he's making his way into the Parliament building because apparently the military forces were preventing him from getting in, and there he is sneaking into the building. So that is crazy to see. Right now, in a democracy, which is South Korea, the opposition leaders having to sneak in the back of Parliament to get in to vote down the martial law declaration. So that is a hell of a scene right there. So we're moving on to our next post here, which goes to Anton Gerashenko, because then we saw that the members of the National Assembly gathered for an emergency parliamentary session, and in the meantime, the military was trying to get into the building of the Parliament. We actually have a video of them actually gathering here in Parliament, so let's take a look. And right here, we are looking at the emergency session of Parliament. It was trying to assemble, at least right here. And of course, there were some people being held out by the military before they could get into the building. So right here, you do see some of those members already inside. And they are trying to basically take a vote on the martial law declaration to strike it down or to uphold it. So this was the beginning of that. But we actually had some more footage here of what the sitting president was trying to do to prevent them from actually gathering to vote on this declaration in our next post here, which goes to Global Military Info. And in this post right here, we saw the South Korean Special Forces arriving at the National Assembly building and commenced securing both the internal and external perimeters, and additionally, military reinforcements were being deployed to Seoul via ground vehicles and helicopters. So let's take a look at the Black Hawks flying into Seoul to secure the Parliament building. So there you have it right there, Black Hawks flying over Seoul. I did not expect to see that happening today, but they're flying in military personnel to actually seize the building of the Parliament. So insane to see. Also, there appear to be a bunch of police buses set up over here on the right side. If I can back this video up, there they are right there on the right side. And it's a total police state, essentially, right now in Seoul, according to the declaration of martial law. So this was not something I had on my bingo card this year, and we're seeing it right there. But we also have more remarkable footage here. Actually, yeah, a 5-second clip of more Black Hawk helicopters flying into Seoul after the martial law declaration. So let's take a look. All right, and there you have it. This is a view of the city of Seoul, and there are those helicopters coming in right over the city skyline right there, coming into the Parliament building. So insane to see, folks. Like, I can't say, like, that's really insane to see this. I was not expecting it. Also, moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Inside Geopolitics once again, and we saw the helicopters landing here on, it looks like a soccer pitch or a field right next to the Parliament building, and of course, these are as large as the pictures can get, so there you go. They're landing right in the middle of the soccer pitch, and it looks like the soldiers are gathering on the track around the field. And also, there you can see there's another helicopter landing. There we have it, more soldiers and helicopters arriving inside of Seoul. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Thomas Lynch on Twitter, and we then got a video of the Korean military forces taking up positions around the Parliament building, and it seems unthinkable, but let's take a look at the video and see the Parliament building being surrounded. All right, and there you see it, lines of military personnel heading to the Parliament building to surround it, and that is crazy to see. They're coming from the soccer pitch, which is right behind this row of bushes right here, and they're coming up from the helicopters to surround the building. So that is currently happening. This was actually about 30 minutes to an hour ago when this footage was taken. So we do have some more news that's evolved since then to show you in just a moment. But there you go, the soldiers coming up, and also it looks like maybe a civilian or a journalist filming this whole thing. So they're walking right up there to the Parliament building, and it looks like maybe the doors are locked in some of them, and they're trying to get in some other doors around here. So there they go, getting into the building. And then in our next post here, which goes to next, we got some more videos here of military being deployed across the city, and I'm going to go ahead and show you this video right now. There are, it looks like, some sort of military personnel carriers going down the street in South Korea, and let me go ahead and turn that audio down just a little bit. You can see they're driving around here and securing the city itself, and also bringing more reinforcements to the soldiers trying to take the Parliament. So there they are, driving right through the streets like a military state in South Korea. Very healthy democracy, or at least we thought it was. But anyways, moving on here to our next post, this one goes to Disclosed TV. We then started seeing clashes happen outside the South Korean Parliament building, so let's take a look at that. So as you can see right here, this is a very loud video, a lot of commotion going on, but that is allegedly an MP, I think, of the Parliament, fighting with the soldiers outside the Parliament building because she was trying to make her way in, and the soldiers were trying to stop her and grab her and throw her away from the building. So you can see here the soldiers are a little bit confused as to what they're supposed to be doing, and they're not very confident in what they're actually doing around the Parliament building. So that was something to note as well. But once again, the Parliament members were able to get into the building and vote on the martial law declaration, and we did see that happen shortly after this video was taken. But in the meantime, we do have more footage of the MPs trying to break into the Parliament building, and right here in this video, you can see, once I turn down the audio a little bit, there are the MPs and this massive, massive crowd here and sea of soldiers trying to make their way into the building, and it looks like several of them were able to storm their way through to the doors, And once again, the soldiers are not very organized here. Even though they are surrounding the building, it's very disorganized and it's unclear what is happening. And also, it looks like a civilian might be actually blocking the door there to prevent the military from further getting into the building. So just chaos all the way around, and also confusion between the civilians and the soldiers. And also, moving on to our next post here, this one goes to Inside Geopolitics once again, and then we got a remarkable picture here. It looks like it was indeed civilians of South Korea holding back the military forces of the sitting President Yoon from taking over the parliament building. So not only was it the MPs holding them back, but also the civilians amassed around the parliament to prevent the military from taking it over. So remarkable to see. The civilians are out here in the street making sure their government stays the way they want it and doesn't get taken over by militia forces, or military forces that is, in their parliament. So crazy to see right here. The civilians did mobilize themselves to make sure their voices were heard, and they were actually blocking the building themselves out here in the street. So remarkable to see. But moving on here to our next post, this one goes to Visegrad 24, and we have more news about what's going to happen to the martial law declaration declared by President Yoon. And we can see that once the parliament members were able to get back inside the building, the South Korean parliament voted 190 to 0, meaning 190 people in favor of striking down the president's martial law declaration. 110 MPs supported the president by boycotting the vote, and it remains to be seen which side the military will follow. And right now, that is the big question. With this being struck down by the parliament, we have to wait and see if the president is going to abide by this declaration by the parliament. So right now, it's still in a state of flux right now in the country of South Korea. We really don't know which way it's going to go, but of course, it could go any way at this point. It could be the president decides to keep the martial law in place and still tries to take over the parliament, or it could be that maybe he backs down and maybe steps down from his position. We really don't know right now, but of course, the declaration has been struck down 190 to 0 by the parliament. But moving on here to our next post, this one is going to go to Status 6 Military and Conflict News. And at least for the meantime, we did see that the military complied with Parliament's declaration here, and they were seen leaving the Parliament building shortly after that declaration was met with 190 to 0. So let's take a look at this video of the soldiers leaving. So as you can see right here, there are the South Korean armed forces leaving the parliament building right after that parliamentary declaration was reached, and they are leaving, it looks like with suitcases, military equipment, and also it looks like they put their rifles away in bags maybe, and they are leaving the building. So at least that is a good temporary end to the issue, only temporarily, because this thing is not over yet, but at least they did leave parliament and leave the legislature to do its business. So that looks to be the case, but once again, we were told they did not completely leave the grounds of parliament. They left inside the building, but they're still around the perimeter. It's unclear if they're simply trying to leave the area with buses and things like that, or if they're actually planning on staying until they receive further orders. We don't know just yet. It is an evolving situation. But moving into our next post here, this one's going to go to Global Military Info. And we've actually gotten word from the South Korean defense officials, we've been told that despite the vote to null the martial law declaration, South Korean defense officials confirmed to YTN that the martial law will continue until it's lifted by the president. So this apparently is going to keep going. The president has no intention right now of lifting this unless he suddenly changes his mind, but it sounds like the defense officials are waiting for some word from the president, which they have not received just yet, to figure out whether or not they're going to abide by this or not. So right now it's in a state of confusion, like I said, and we really just don't know. But moving on here to our last post and our last piece of news here, we have heard that the former president of South Korea, Moon, has come out with a statement calling on the armed forces as the previous commander-in-chief to not implement martial law and allow parliament to do its job. So this is the former president of South Korea coming out and calling down the actions of the sitting President Yoon, and also telling the military to go away and leave parliament to do its job, which is of a democratic society. So we're seeing that right here from the former president. And with that, folks, that is actually our last piece of news for the video, and I hope you forgive me today. Today's video was not as polished as I like it to be. I'm trying to cover this news as fast as it's happening, and also I had to make a couple edits to the video while I was recording it because news is coming out so fast it's really hard to keep up with it. So please forgive the sort of like rough edges today on the video because it was a little bit rough, but this is what's happening right now. And of course, we will have more information tonight on our stream because this situation is not over by any means, and it looks like it could get worse before it gets better inside of South Korea. And who would have known this was going to happen today? I certainly did not know this, and I don't think anybody else did either. So this shows you how fragile democracy actually is and how important it is to ensure that the democracies can keep operating the way they need to operate and not fall into chaos like this. This literally happened in less than just a couple hours, and this is quite disturbing to see. see, if I do say so myself, and hopefully it gets resolved peacefully and it doesn't end in a disaster happening inside of South Korea. So we'll have to wait and see, but nonetheless, be sure to hit the like button and also subscribe to the video as well if you want more short war videos just like this one that come out pretty much daily at this point. And also, be sure to join us tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern, like I said. But with that, folks, thank you all for watching. We'll see you all tonight, and bye-bye for now.